whoever you are, wherever you are, hope you are blessed and doing safe. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings, family. Of course, I'm tuning in. You see me without the glasses off today, but if you're looking for some opportunities, particular advertisement opportunities, then look no further at the link at the bottom to my email address. You can hit me up for advertisement opportunities. We are supporting and promoting your businesses here on this channel. You can also, if you would like to donate and subscribe to our Patreon, a link is at the bottom as well. So you have multiple ways in which you can advertise with the platform by emailing me when we go on do our live stream. You also have access to premium content, those that want to see premium content that you will not find here on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, as I am suspended probably by now. You guys can check out the Patreon at link at the bottom. But advertisement opportunities, definitely email me, gavin.grich1@gmail.com for rates. And for the Patreon, it is the same as the YouTube channel. It is channel gboot2786. All right, I'll holla. Peace. Oh, we got a special one for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you are blessed and doing safe. Tonight, it is Random Topics Tuesdays, and it's a special tonight because our brother Shawn James is going to be joining me tonight. We're going to be discussing the following. We'll be discussing Miss Pat attacks Bill Cosby and R. Kelly. Also, California recall election results. Biden seeks compensation for refugees, the death of comedian Norm Macdonald, and I'm going to ask Shawn about his thoughts on Russell Westbrook and his bussy, as well as we'll talk about that. Guys, if you're just joining me, let's bring in brother Shawn James. Shawn, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for coming in on a special night. We'll get started in a minute, brother. Shawn, show everybody your books.
All right. Well, I've got several of the books on the SJS Direct imprint, like The Man Crisis, which is one of the most popular nonfiction books I've ever written. I've also got great fantasy fiction like Eternal Night, a great vampire novel, and the 2021 books Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess, and John Haynes, Taking Care of Business. And you can get all of these books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. And you can find The Man Crisis on Smashwords, the iBook store, and Google Play, and Barnes & Noble as well.
All right. And we also, let me take care of my business, ladies and gentlemen. If you'd like to try some of our delicious seasoning, go to Nornie'sCreoleBlends.com. Try it on chicken, meat, or fish. Nornie's goes great with every dish. Also, as I always do before we get down, we got to get on up. Check out my latest single, Video Soul, which is out now on Apple, iTunes. It's also on Spotify. If you want to download it or buy it, it'd be great. It's a great little bounce song. And also, I would like for you all to check out our song, my theme song, Gotta Get On Up, which is also available on iTunes, Spotify, and Apple. So we're going to bring Shawn back in a minute, but until this time, we're going to go ahead and get on up as we always do. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Salute to you, Derek Bailey, One Who Cares, Danielle. I hope you're doing great out there in Thibodeau. Well, you're out in Point Coupé, excuse me, right now. But all our family who are scattered as a result of Hurricane Ida, we thank you, we love you, we support you, and our prayers and thoughts are with you during this time. So without further ado, let us get on up, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to S Mount. I see you in the chat. But let us begin, shall we?
Girl, come on. Gotta dance to the beat, cause on the dance floor is where we'll be. Show me what you got. Gotta feel the groove.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the
Right now the party's wasted. There's nothing much to do. But once the groove gets started, tell me, what do you have to lose? Just look into my eyes, girl, as we glide across the room. And what to my surprise now, the beat takes hold of you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really time to get your body. Gotta get on and move your body. Cause when the beat is really start to feel your body. Gotta get on and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on. Now the DJ plays the wind. Rock steady in the mood. Put on the fire. Tonight we're gonna groove. Show me how you do the full chorus. Electric slide on two. Hit the bus stop, or do the bunny hop, baby. It's really up to you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really grooving. Time to feel your body moving. Gotta get all out and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, start to feel your body moving. Gotta get on and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on the Now 2020 hasn't been the best year of all times. We've been dealing with death, the pandemic, racism, bad policing, and all that rhymes. But like Uncle Stu once said, if you breathe and you achieve. And so, if you're ready, I need you all to get on up. Are you ready? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Get your butt on the dance floor. 5 and 6 and 7, 8. This jam we appreciate. We're gonna slide and step on the beat. On the dance floor is where we'll be.
feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, start to feel your body. We gotta get on and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on. Yeah, gotta get on. Come on, baby, gotta get on. Feel the groove, get on the floor.
Gotta get on up. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Gavin Richard Presents here on channel G-Boot 2786. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you are blessed and doing safe. If you're also looking on the backup channel, Gavin Richard, as well as on Facebook and on Periscope at Gavin Rich 2786. Thank you for tuning in. We have a special tonight because I'm not going to be here on Thursday. So our brother and friend of the show, Shawn James, is here for, we're making Random Topics Thursdays now, Random Topic Tuesdays for tonight. So Shawn, thank you for joining me again.
Thank you for having me on.
All right. And Shawn, we'll go ahead and get right into it. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Lamiko, what's up, brother? What's up, Danielle? S. Mount. Good evening to everyone. Come on, grab a seat. Come on, grab a seat. We're going to get more people coming in soon, and I'm sure as they get the notifications that I'm live. So people like to tune in, so I'm grateful that they're here. Lamiko is always here. Danielle, Esmon, everybody on here. So shout out to y'all. Let's go ahead and get started, Shawn, shall we? The top news, I just learned this I'm just actually reading about this a few days ago. Biden is seeking compensation for Afghan refugees. According to CBS News, uh, we have the article out right here. I'm going to pull it up for you so everybody can see it. But CBS News reports that the Biden administration on Tuesday called for, and this was this past Tuesday, called on Congress to pass tens of billions of dollars in funding to keep the federal government running as lawmakers work to pass its annual budget legislation. The bill, I should say, it just doesn't include funding for Afghan refugees and allies. It does include, it's a national budget apparently. It also includes relief for natural disasters that have hit, like in my home state of Louisiana. Also, what's going on in Texas with Tropical Storm Nicholas, and of course the hurricane. We've been dealing with Hurricane Ida, and even Nicholas, because that's going to skirt along the Gulf Coast as well as we speak right now. It's raining. It's been raining all day. But CBS News reports that the administration is seeking $6.4 billion for sites to process Afghan allies overseas and in the U.S., as well as for security screenings and humanitarian assistance. An administration official said the funding request will support plans for as many as 65,000 vulnerable Afghans to arrive in the United States by the end of September, and up to 30,000 additional Afghans over the following 12 months. The money includes $2.4 billion for the Defense Department, $1.3 billion for State Department for help with refugee resettlement, $815 million for USAID, I should just say USAID for humanitarian assistance, $193 million for the Department of Homeland Security's U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services to ramp up its capacity to process Afghans and put them on the pathway to legal permanent residence, and $1.7 billion for the Health and Human Services Department to help Afghans build new lives in the United States. The operation to move out of danger and to safety tens of thousands of Afghans at risk include many who've helped us during our 2 decades in Afghanistan, represents an extraordinary military, diplomatic, security, and humanitarian operation by the United States government. It goes further and says, this was from the White House Office of Budget Management Acting Director Shalanda Young. And it states here they're looking to give at least $14 million and $14 billion for disasters from the last 18 months prior to the devastations caused by Hurricane Ida, with storms such as Hurricane Laura and Delta, as well as wildfires and more. Officials are seeking at least $10 billion for Hurricane Ida recovery, which could increase as the destruction caused by the storm is further assessed, officials said. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on this, Shawn. You're talking about $15 billion in aid for natural disasters, which I think is good. But now you're talking about $6.4 billion for Afghan immigrants to come over, and all of this in the wake of COVID-19. I'm wondering how many of them are they being mandated. I won't talk about it too much to get the jab, but we're opening up our borders. This is a president who has talked about having open borders for illegal immigrants from Mexico and from South America who were able to come in like that. I don't believe they've been tested for COVID, for the woo-woo. I have to be sensitive with my words here. And on top of that, we're talking about $6.4 billion to Afghan refugees. We have people in this country, Shawn, that are homeless. People, veterans who are homeless that don't have jobs, don't have money. Their families cannot support them, and they cannot support their families. And I'm wondering what is up with this administration's plan with this. Not to mention, also, I also saw it was reported, and I just want to share this with you all. You can go to this proposal that the administration has, is that there is a proposal for the IRS, a measure that would require financial institutions to report transactions to the IRS on any bank account with a balance of $600 or more. And this apparently has upset Ohio community bankers and Republican legislatures up in Ohio. The Treasury Department says the proposal has drawing objections and others that will require that more information be sent to the IRS will reduce tax evasion and improve collection of taxes that are already due, generating an estimated $460 billion in tax revenue over 10 years. It's being suggested as revenue offset for the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill that the Biden administration and Democrats who control Congress are drafting to spend more money on programs that would improve healthcare, education, infrastructure, and counter climate change, among other things. Let me say this, though, and just from what I know from a legal perspective and standpoint, you don't have a right to privacy with regards to, from what I've known in criminal cases with the Supreme Court, your bank accounts are not considered effects for purposes of the Fourth Amendment. Not that this constitutes as legal advice, but this is just what my knowledge is. But nevertheless, Shawn, I'm going to give you the floor right now. With all this is being said, what are your take on this? What is your take on this thing with the Afghan refugees and the 6.4 billion?
Well, my take on this thing with the Afghan refugees is this is a major slap in the face to the black voter. Now, the black voter was the one who put Joe Biden in office, and the black voter was told back in December of 2020 they couldn't get anything tangible in exchange for their vote. And over the course of 8 months, your Joe Biden has put Asians who did not support him in front of them with an anti-Asian hate bill that targets Black Americans and gives Asians funds in the background. He has also gone out here and given non-citizen Mexicans also all of these benefits as they cross the border. And now he's putting Afghans in front of Black American voters. And Black American voters should be really sour about this because this president continues to express his contempt, but he begged us to take our booties to the poll to vote for him in his paternalistic ad back in 2020. But instead of showing us respect for helping him out, he just continues to express contempt for the black voter by continuing to put them last instead of putting them first. Now, what's really troubling about these Afghans and all the benefits that they want to give them is that many of these people are not even being screened as related to background checks, and they're not even being tested for their health, which is a very scary aspect because they're sitting here telling Americans that they cannot even get a job in some cases if they don't go out here and get pricked. But these other people, they're coming in here with no background check, no reference check, no sort of vetting, and we don't know if there are ISIL sympathizers or terrorists in this group that are slipping through either through those airports that are coming from Afghanistan.
That's a good point. I'm sorry, John. That's a damn good.
Or if they're slipping through the border. So your Joe Biden's policies are putting America in grave danger, but he continues to press on. And as he presses on pushing his agenda for the Afghan, he continues to oppress the American, because with that whole proposal going after Americans' bank accounts, that's again another middle finger at the American citizen and the American taxpayer. You have all of these rules for the American citizen, but the illegal immigrant, you want to give them benefits. And this is the type of far left type of agenda that alienates voters, because here you are giving benefits to these Afghans, and you're not respecting your voter bases or your voting bloc. And this is the kind of stuff that leads to the House and the Senate flipping, and eventually can lead to the president already losing the next election, because Joe Biden's approval rating is already at an all-time low, and he further continues to alienate voters with these types of far-left proposals, which just turn people away, because instead of putting the American first, he puts the American last, and even worse, he puts the Black American who went out here and voted for him in large numbers, because we were told about the evil orange man, but he continues to express contempt for most Americans out here, because when you look at his agenda and his platform, it's like one big middle finger up at the American taxpayer. And he's like, oh, I want to help out these immigrants by giving them welfare. Well, why is it okay for the immigrant to have welfare, but the black woman is called a welfare queen? And then maybe that was called some by Ronald Reagan, but also those on the left. I believe some of them may have used that term as well. But the expression of
Yeah,
contempt at the black woman for having welfare is well known throughout many of these political circles. It's the black woman is called bad for having welfare, but the Afghan is it's okay for them to have welfare and it's okay for them to have tangibles, even though they are not voters and they're not citizens. Black Americans help build this country, but we can't get any tangibles from a government, even though we voted in a large majority. And that's a lesson black people need to learn about Joe Biden and this 2020 election is this is why you have your own agenda. This is why you pick your own candidates. And this is why you don't vote for anybody unless you get tangibles in exchange for your vote.
most definitely, Sean. You we're getting and waiting on so-called. We got a $1,600 stimulus check, probably less than that. Remember that depended on your income. If you made so much money as a couple, if you made over, I think, $100,000 by your salary, you didn't qualify for that. If you had kids at home, minor children, and you made so much or so little, then yeah, you could get that. But if you were a single person and you made so little, yeah, you could get that. But first off, that $1,200 is going to go fast. That 1,600 goes fast. Uh, there was not, you can't even. Where can you spend it on but your rent? Even if they put it on moratorium on it, your bills still have to be paid. Your your internet, your cable, not to mention your electricity, because that comes first, your food, groceries, so you spend all of that. But you have people who are not American citizens getting $32,000 checks. And they're going to use this money, Sean. This is what's going to happen. Coming to a hood near you, your latest convenience store, your latest chicken shack, your latest gas station, and we're not going to be able to own any of that. I'm being real with it. I'm not lying. I'm not being real with it. If people think I'm being harsh, I don't care.
Well, that's the truth. I see it in my own neighborhood right now.
It's the truth. It's not hate speech. I have no hatred for anybody that wants to come over to this country, learn to speak English, want to be a part of the American dream, works hard. Fine. You want to be a registered voter? Fine. You want to do such and such? Fine. But when it impedes my people, when we have a president who got in office because, and I think it's questionable even with that but black people have been vehemently supportive of Joe Biden. Let's not forget how Biden talked to these so-called civil rights leaders, although they're not my leaders, on that Zoom call when he basically said, the Hispanic people are going to outnumber you. You got to get with them. He talked to those men, some of whom were his age, like they were children. And we voted for this man. You're black bootlicks, as you would put it, you're black bootlicks that blindly supported Joe Biden. What do they have to say now? This is the stuff that we've been talking about. This is what Tariq Nasheed was talking about. This is what Nicole's view was talking about. This is what Professor Blacktruth and Jason Black were talking about. You go and vote blindly for somebody, and you're not getting anything to show for it. We're getting kicked in our asses here. Look at your neighborhoods. Look at my neighborhood of New Orleans. Another hurricane comes, I know what's going to happen. This area is going to be gentrified, and it's already coming. It's in the works. But they're going to declare this land not inhabitable. But then we're going to see, within a few years, you're going to see this entire area redeveloped with casinos and hotels. You're going to have golf course all over here. It's going to be something else. We had Six Flags out here in New Orleans East. Six Flags was here. It was called Jazzland before that. They are still trying to find out what they're going to do with this area, do with that. They want Drew Brees and his team to have something to do with it, even though people didn't vote for Drew Brees to have it. They went against the people. They want his name attached to this. We're not getting anything, people. Yeah, Black Voltron, they've set up shop here. What do these old elders have to say? That you know, from Roots. Ooh, ooh. Every time they come by, trying to tell you to do shit, and they don't even know what the hell they're talking about. They're not fighting for you. They're fighting for a seat at the table. That's what Clockburn said. Didn't he say that? I don't care what. I didn't ask him to do nothing special for me as long as my children and grandchildren are okay. Remember, did he not say that?
He did say that. It just shows how useless he is.
But we keep voting. But who keeps voting for him?
These baby boomers who just think that they have to support this party no matter what, not understanding that you can't keep supporting people who don't support you.
Right.
I mean, everybody else votes on agenda and tangibles, but black people, we're just like stuck with a bunch of NPCs who just are so emotional because they vote basically for white validation and approval. They don't vote on agenda. They vote to make white people happy, and they want to please the white master. And that's the kind of mindset that's really messed up as related to the black voter. And that's why we keep losing every time.
Yeah. I never forget. I've told you this story before, Shawn, when I was in a clothing store out near the Lower Ninth Ward, right between Lower Ninth Ward and Chalmette. It was owned by these Middle Easterners. I want to say it was Pakistani, or it could have been, I don't know about Indian, Afghan, I don't know, but somewhere from that area. And I never forget him following us throughout the store.
I've had that happen to me when I was a teenager back in the 80s all the time.
I was with my parents, following us throughout the store, even telling me at that point I couldn't put the shirt on because I got my hair cut.
I just did stop shopping at those kind of places. And I was so glad when I could find mail order and internet, so I don't have to deal with any of those people.
No, I don't want to deal with them either. Fuck them.
Yeah, I just say take my money elsewhere, and I've been taking it elsewhere ever since I was in my early 20s. And when I found mail order companies, and when the internet blew up, I was glad to leave these people alone because I could vote with my dollar. And a lot of those businesses, they're no longer here anymore.
Yeah, no, they're not here. They're not here. Good.
So
we need to own. We need to own our own gas stations, man.
Yeah.
You're about to say something, Shawn.
I was saying, it's like Mr. Superboy says, know your history and control your dollar. And I agree with him on that, yes, you need to know your history, and you definitely need to control your dollar, because when you control your dollar, you can shut these people down and push them out of your neighborhood. I've seen Hispanics do this in my old South Bronx neighborhood. When these Arabs would come to the neighborhood, opening up their store, the Hispanics just said, no, we're not going to shop there. We're going to shop with our own. And I've seen these Arab stores go out of business in less than a year. I mean, this is what I've seen when you flex your economic muscles. I've seen Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Ecuadorians, all of these Hispanic people came together and said, no, we're not shopping with you. We're only shopping with our own. And this is in a neighborhood, again, predominantly Hispanic neighborhood. I've seen 4 to 5 Arab-owned stores shut down in the course of 2 years. That's economic power right there. They even ran the Asians out. Yeah. That's how powerful those Hispanics were in the Bronx.
They ran them out. What they did was they
basically shop there.
They boxed them out.
Yeah,
they boxed them out.
And they were so powerful. The Hispanics now own the Asian fruit stand. That's how powerful they were in my old neighborhood. They practically ran the Asians out and then bought the store. I mean, yeah, that's economic power
Look
right
what
there.
happened well, look at Detroit. Detroit back in 2000, the Arabs don't even make up 1% of the population. Yet they had, I guess, little Saudi Arabia out there in Detroit, where they had all the gas stations that they controlled in a black neighborhood, and they made and ranked in damn near $75 million in 1 year.
That's all the black dollar, because the only people who support them are black people. Everybody else does not. I mean, everybody else will walk away. I mean, I've seen the Hispanic community shut them down in, again, less than a year, 2 years. The stores come, the stores go, and eventually they fall into Hispanic hands. That's how powerful they are. And we need to start flexing our muscles, because we have even more economic power. I mean, we have 3.3 trillion in spending power. And if we flexed our muscles like that, we would probably take all these minorities out.
Oh, most definitely. We could, you know, Dr. Claude Anderson's talked about setting up like a train station or train transit that he wanted to run in some of the major cities where black people could go shop and do business. He talked about that. My father has talked about setting up before, when we're talking about New Orleans, he's having a monorail from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. He had talked about it beforehand and running through New Orleans East. And now they ignored him, but now recently they're talking about it with the state. So we miss out on a lot because we're all caught up in bullshit. Let me just give you one example, and before I go, I'll never forget, Shawn, when we were talking about forming our own city. I had a family friend. We told this to, I think, and I've shared this before, but I'm going to say it again. We had a family friend, some friends we were talking to about this idea and talking about the dollars that we had, the millions that we made in sales tax alone, and as well as in property tax. This area, District E, in 2012 had over $275 million in taxes, and we're not have no shopping malls, no movie theaters, nothing to show for it. My father said, well, you know, we want to form our own city. And I'll never forget this person, this family friend, I won't name their name, but she actually said, I don't care whatever they do, as long as we got a Walmart in this neighborhood, I'm good.
That's a messed up frame of thinking. I mean, we shouldn't be thinking about going to Walmart. We need to be thinking about getting our own businesses.
Walmart is in, first off, Walmart is already in some of the smallest towns in America. If you go drive around, they have them in places like like I was in Terrell, Texas. They got Walmart there. They got Walmart in populations that don't even, you know, out in Denham Springs, out in Zachary and Baker here, outside of Baton Rouge. That's mainly the major store that they have there. So why is that something you just want there and not your own stores or even just more quality? That's messed up thinking. Yes, that's ridiculous. I looked when she said it, my mouth dropped. I just couldn't. But that's the mentality we're dealing with. That's what I'm fighting out over here.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel it's not worth fighting over because it's like it's a lost cause.
The problem is a lot of our people have messed up minds. They're just so caught up in their obsession with white validation and approval. They're not thinking about empowering themselves. They're just so caught up in being codependent on white folks. They don't understand if you have your own, you don't need them. And that's the whole problem is that they want to depend on white people. And it shouldn't be like that at all.
Yeah. Most definitely. But we'll continue monitoring this. Shawn, I did just quickly, what do you think about the IRS proposals with the IRS that they want to monitor transactions of $600 or more?
Well, that's scary because, you know, they shouldn't be monitoring your finances like that. I mean, the whole thing is that they're thinking that they're going to catch tax cheats, but they're not really going to catch them because what they're going to do is find ways to finesse things by going around it, by not putting that much money into these transactions. So they're thinking that they're going to be able to catch these tax cheats to fund Joe Biden's agenda, but this is all going to blow up in their face because who puts that kind of money into those things? And again, as somebody who actually does file taxes, I report practically everything that I get. So if there's a transaction there, I have it documented in records. So this doesn't really stop anybody. And again, it's all about them trying to fund their agenda for these social programs. But do we really need all of these social programs? I mean, that's the critical question I have to ask, because these social programs, they're just pork barrel projects for these politicians to sit there and play big shot at the expense of the American people. And they don't really give the American people anything of value. And that's why people don't like the left very much, because they want to give you a whole bunch of social programs that fill their pockets, but don't really give us anything of value. I mean, the average American is not getting anything out of this deal. And if we left those Afghans alone, let them go out here, if they want to be a part of America, come out here and work their way up, let them work their way up. I mean, we don't need to give them a handout to get them over. We need to let them, if they want to be American citizens, let them do the work that Americans do.
Yes, indeed. Butterfly says she hates Walmart.
You know, Walmart's not all that. I mean, I buy things online from them here and there, but they're not all that.
I don't go in, yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't go with them often. Unfortunately, where I live, it's the closest grocery store that I have. Of course, there's Winn-Dixie, there's Rouse's, but Rouse's is either on the North Shore or in Jefferson Parish or by the lakefront. We have Winn-Dixie, which is okay. But yeah, man. Yeah. But I don't really like going. I haven't gone to Walmart. It's been a little.
Walmart reminds me of Target, and usually Target here in the Bronx has had nothing as of late. So
I usually like Target.
Yeah, it's like it's like you go there and stuff is always out. So it's like I just don't even bother with them anymore.
I stopped when Target was pushing the. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, Walmart is all self checkout. I've been in it before because I had no choice. You know, I went recently, but I don't really go like talking about it. If there's no other choice, then okay. But I just voted for Gavin Newsom to be recalled and wrote in Tariq Nasheed for governor of California. Got to stay on code. That's what's up, Black Voltron. Yeah, Tariq Nasheed. Derek Bailey says, yep. We're going to send it out. Since you brought up Gavin Newsom, let's go ahead, I guess, and get in our next topic. We're going to look at the California election recall election results. I don't think there's anything new to report right now, Shawn, in regards to the recall as of. Although we can go on and look, this is
who you're going to get. And in California, Donald Trump is not very popular. And what he's done is try to paint his primary opponents as Trump supporters who would take over the state.
This is courtesy of CBS News. I do not.
All right, Tom. Thank you so very much for that. All right, let's go back to.
This is being shared only for news purposes only. I don't own it. However, Fair Use Act of 1978-6 does allow purposes of copyrighted material to be shared for purposes of commentary, news, as well as education and a few other things. So,
shorter than it was about, I would say, 30 minutes ago or so, but still people say it's about 45 minutes to an hour wait here. We want to show you another location where it's actually pretty busy right now, too. We're hearing that there's long lines over at Beverly Hills City Hall, another LA County Vote Center. That is reporting wait times of about 45 minutes to an hour as well. And at one point earlier in the day, that was the place with the longest wait time, but these are, of course, fluctuating. We'll show you some more video from here in West Hollywood. Just after 5 o'clock today is when we really started to see the lines pick up. A steady stream of people coming here to Plummer Park Community Center. Most of the voters coming out after casting their ballot tell us that they waited about 45 minutes. They say it was well worth it. A lot of people are surprised to see the long lines for a couple of reasons. Some people tell me that they expected more people to vote by mail. Others say they expected more people to actually vote earlier in the day. And we just talked with a woman who says that she never has seen lines this long aside from a presidential general election. So she was surprised to see that as well. But here in West Hollywood, again, and at any of the polling places, You have to be in line by 8 o'clock to be able to vote. Even if there is a long line, like here in West Hollywood, you'll still be able to vote, again, as long as you are in that line by that deadline. Live in West Hollywood, Rick Montanez. We'll go back to you, Pat and Juan.
All right, thanks so much, Rick. A lot of interest in this recall election, Juan. Well, Governor Newsom was in San Francisco earlier today, and he's spending this election night in the state capital of Sacramento. The other leading candidates are spread out across the state tonight.
CBS NLA's Lori Perez is live in Costa Mesa with the Larry Elder Camp. Lori.
Well, going off of what Rick was just talking about, I have to tell you,
I think I hear the banjo playing.
The ballroom here at the Hilton in Costa Mesa, as word is spreading about some of those long lines, not only in places like Beverly Hills and West Hollywood, but more particularly for this crowd in GOP strongholds, Huntington Beach.
The polls haven't closed yet. Right now, it's about 7:12.
I had the campaign strategist talking about his excitement over hearing that there were long lines there, which is good news for them. Now, Larry Elder is now here in Orange County. We're told he is in a good mood and even excited about this final hour of voting. Whatever happens, we're told he will later this evening join the large crowd expected here at this Hilton in Costa Mesa. Today will end a frantic 7 weeks since Elder got into the race at the end of July. He has almost immediately jumped to the front of the pack of the replacement candidates. Analysts say his conservative agenda and style is on trend and in line with the GOP today. And Elder will tell you he energized the party and this race, in his opinion. Analysts say he set himself apart from some of the more moderate candidates by stressing a conservative agenda and going more to the right as people seem to respond to it, especially on pandemic policies. He said he would on day one rather, reverse any mandates on vaccinations and testing and masks. And after that, of course, he would have quite a challenge getting things done if elected because the California legislature is so strongly Democratic. To that, he has said he would not shy away. He has no problem with using his executive authority to get things that he thinks are the right thing to do done. You can probably hear to my left here, there is a band getting ready.
The band is tuning up. We're waiting for the banjo player.
Party. We're expecting to
I think I can hear Fiddler.
A couple hours. Guys,
All right, we'll check back with you when that happens. All right, two other candidates, John Cox and Kevin Falcon, are in San Diego.
Sean, I'm gonna mute this. I'm gonna mute this, Sean. Yeah, it looks dead. So, what do you think so far?
Sadly, the only loser in this election are the people who still remain in the state of California. When I look at the state of California with this recall election, sadly, it reminds me so much of New York when I was growing up in the 80s. And sadly, what caused New York to fall into decline was this mindset that New Yorkers had, and I see Californians have, as related to holding their politicians accountable. And it took at least about 16 years for New Yorkers here to realize that the Democratic Party was just not cutting it as related to taking care of business. And that's what I see with the sad state of California, whether Newsom is recalled or Larry Elder gets in, is that the mindset there is just completely messed up. And people have not gone through enough pain to understand why they need to change. A lot of people that I've listened to the rhetoric on, they're just so stuck on, as I call it, stupid regarding, Newsom needs to stay because, that Larry Elder may replace Dianne Feinstein with a Republican. It's like, no, let's look at the state of your union, and the state of your union is terrible. Most of the businesses are leaving the state of California. Many residents who already had money have left. And what's left in the state of California right now are doleful creatures. And they're sitting there paying $5 a gallon for gas while people are homeless. And there's all this fecal matter and filth in the streets. But you're Gavin Newsom. He's so caught up in his ideals, he cannot think about the real struggles that people are going through in the state. And as the pandemic was going on, here was a man who decided to flout his own rules, send his own kids to private schools, going out here and ate in a restaurant. And while I believe his honor, whatever Nancy Pelosi is, connection to him, was out here getting her hair done, they're sitting there having rules for themselves, Meanwhile, the state has been crumbling under Newsom's policies. And while he focuses on things like plastic bags, he's also continues to raise taxes as the tax base continues to erode, making many of the exact same mistakes I saw Mario Cuomo make here in New York growing up as a kid. He followed the same policies that Gavin Newsom followed, raising taxes and thinking that he was going to get more tax revenue from a shrinking tax base, alienating more and more residents, and then sitting there thinking that, oh, the state is in good shape, but the state wasn't in good shape. And in 1994, we found out how bad the state was, because that's when people got fed up with the Democrats and elected George Pataki. And after they elected George Pataki and people didn't like him, what happened was they started to see the progress because the state started to get better, quality of life started to get better. We saw more investment, we saw more tourism, because we changed from these crazy far left policies to more conservative ones. And that's what California needs right now. They need somebody who can put some structure and order in that state, because what's happening now is everybody's thinking, oh, this guy needs to be saved. But no, this guy needs to be terminated. But sadly, Larry Elder, I don't know, he's a bootlick, so he's the wrong man. And we really need a really strong candidate in California to get it right. And we need somebody to knock out this far left agenda over in California, because this is the second biggest state in the union, and it's this close to the same fiscal crisis I saw implode New York growing up in the 80s and the early 90s, and it's following the same failed approaches, but still expecting change. It's like nobody's looking at history at what happened in New York's fiscal crisis, because that's coming to California. If you keep voting Democrat, you're going to have the same fiscal crisis that we had in New York in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, because they just keep spending money on social programs, raising taxes on an eroding tax base, and then expecting to get people to invest in a state where you have the highest taxes and you have all these blighted conditions. But what incentive would any business owner have to invest in a state where you have extremely high taxes and you have extremely blighted conditions? I mean, there's no quality of life in California, just like there's no quality of life now here in New York. So what incentive does anybody have to invest in opening up a mall or opening up a business? I mean, if you're going to get taxed to the hilt, then you would just move to another state like Florida or Texas, where there are no state taxes. And that doesn't make the state competitive. And that's one of the things people don't understand about this recall, that you have to have, the state needs to get its act together. And it's not going to get its act together until you get rid of idiots like Gavin Newsom.
Yeah. And I've lived out, I was out when I was out in Texas, man, because I got my homeboy is actually evacuated there, but he's going to be moving apparently out there because they had everything that we don't have out here in New Orleans. Just better quality. It's good for young black entrepreneurs, young black men that want to make something out of themselves. So Dallas is nice, man. Fort Worth was nice, even nice, and that was smaller than Dallas. They got stuff out here. Yeah, people are moving, and change does need to happen in California. I think the biggest problem with California, with them being the largest state in the union with 36 million people, and everything being Democrat, everything leaning far, far to the left, there's no balance in that. Remember what they did in 2008 when Proposition 8 was actually passed by the voters, if I'm not mistaken, on same-sex marriage. And black voters helped propel that. But then it was the Supreme Court of California that struck that down. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, they've just been leaning to the left ever since. And, what's happened as well, and everything is overpriced. I saw like the average, someone put in Butterflies, I think, said the average price to rent a home is $3,700.
That's like it is here in New York, and that's why nobody wants to come here. I mean, you can go to another part of the country, and with the internet making it where you can open up a business anywhere, you don't really need to go to these big cities anymore. I mean, I've seen people go to Kansas and Florida and other states, and they're living very well, and they're not dealing with all the crazy tax burdens.
Executive branch believing that laws don't have footing.
Go ahead, finish, Shawn.
They're living better because it's like, I know a Facebook friend. He's like, Florida is a very nice place, and other people, they're in other states, And they look at states like New York and California, and they have no incentive to come there because why would I want to go to a state where I'm going to get taxed to death and the cost of living is almost impossible?
In the process, and how to do some reparative action.
Most definitely.
And so I'm looking forward to more research on.
Yeah, and if Larry, if he did, he's only going to have a year, and he's not going to really able to get anything done because he is dealing with a state assembly and legislature that is Democrat.
Yeah,
Or fight him.
I believe he could have one impact, and that is ending those vaccine mandates, because that would make the state automatically competitive, because that opens up movie theaters, that opens up a lot of clubs and businesses, and that natural competition is going to make it where a lot of these other states with these mandates are going to realize that if they want to make money, they're going to have to start shifting gears, because if the state of California is wide open, people are going to go where those businesses are open, and that's what's going to undermine a lot of these guys long term. So Larry Elder, yes, he's a clown, yes, he's a minstrel, but this changes the entire economy overall, and on that one thing, it could have a major impact on the whole country politically.
Not a good system of democracy. That doesn't ensure that the person who's the most popular actually wins the election and is the elected official. So is it time for us to rethink that? Yes, but, and this is always the but in California, it would require going back to the people to change the Constitution, and we would have to, by a vote of the majority of the people, say, we need to change our system of direct democracy. We have tried to do that for years. We've tried to do that for decades. If there's one thing that unites the California electorate and is really unpopular, it's anything that looks to the voters like you're trying to take their power away. So any reform would really have to be careful to look like we are in fact trying to empower people, not trying to pull back on their authority. Anytime you try and reform, for instance, voting for judicial candidates, voting for district attorney, anything that smacks of giving the people just a little less power, giving our elected officials a little more, it always fails. So is it time to reform? Yes. We don't need to wait for the results of tonight to know that.
Okay, thanks, Jessica. Zeb, how would that look? I mean, you do have some examples of, you could change the percentages of the signatures collected to 20%, 25%. You can also go to like what, a two-tier or top-tier primary election. What do you think about that?
Look, I don't think that the issue, the main issue is the threshold of signatures you have to get. You still have to get.
He's talking about the threshold. I don't want to look at this right now.
Easy, and
I mean, look, if they elect Larry Elder, it's going to be worse when they had Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger, that was a joke.
Yeah. But Gavin Newsom is so bad that they have to go through the Mario Cuomo experience to understand. It's like people aren't going to wake up until they see their state hit rock bottom. That's the only thing that's going to make them wake up.
Right. All right. Well, Shawn, we learned earlier today out in New York. Mario Cuomo. Gavin Newsom sucks. I hate sharing a name with him, but nevertheless, Larry Elder's even worse. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
All right. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. We're here with Shawn James. Ladies and gentlemen, you can check out Shawn James' books like John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose, available on Amazon. You can also hit up and watch some of his other books, including Revenge of the Cyber Goddess and John Haynes, Taking Care of Business. Shawn, out in New York, we also have my Google Pay and Cash App at the bottom. Zelle, if you'd like to donate to the channel, I'd appreciate it. We learned that comedian Norm Macdonald, who was on Saturday Night Live during the mid-1990s, passed away to cancer. And my main thing, I guess I remember with Norm Macdonald, I remember he did the movie Dirty Work with Artie Lang, who coincidentally was on Mad TV, was the original cast of Mad TV. And so Macdonald died today after he was battling cancer. who's a Canadian stand-up comedian, writer, and actor, known for his deadpan style. I admired some of the things he did. He also had his own show called The Norm Show back in 1999 through 2001. He's most known for writing for Live and being the host of Weekend Update for 3 seasons before was the O.J. Simpson case. He really dogged and roasted the hell out of O.J., essentially making a career out of it because that's how he got his start. That's what I remember. Do you have anything you want to say about it? His passing?
Well, I was shocked to hear about Norm Macdonald's passing. I mean, growing up in the 90s, he was a major staple for me as related to comedy, whether it was on Saturday Night Live's Weekend Report, doing the voiceover as Death on Family Guy, or even on his Norm sitcom. I mean, I grew up with Norm Macdonald and his wry, sarcastic style, and I was really shocked to hear about his passing. I mean, he was, again, a major staple of my 20s and even part of my early 30s. I mean, I remember watching him all the time, and he made some really great jokes. And again, truly talented comedian. We're all definitely going to miss. I'm really sad to hear about his passing because he was, again, one of those staples that I grew up with in the 90s and the early 2000s.
Yeah. Well, I remember and I admired, I admired some of the work he did, per se. Some stuff I watched, but I wasn't, of course, too keen on some of the things he said. I mean, they're jokes, but the jokes he's made on O.J. Simpson, Michael Jackson, with O.J. got acquitted, he said, well, it's official. Murder is legal in California. He talked about Michael Jackson and Priscilla Presley getting married and getting a divorce, saying that they just weren't a match. She was a stay-at-home person and he was more homosexual pedophile. Those are the stuff he would say. There's jokes, but fuck it. I didn't care for it. But I don't like speaking ill of dead people. And I'm certainly saddened, yes, to hear of his passing and at a young age of 61 years old. But I like deadpan humor. I'll say that much. So that's something I remembered from him was his style of, deadpan comedy. I admire that. Being a comedian myself, I admire stuff like that. That's why I love Leslie Nielsen with The Naked Gun. He had a deadpan sense of humor. There's movies like all the comedy happening around Leslie, and he would have a nonchalant response to it, even though he was the one who caused all the mayhem. That's kind of like how I watched it. So I've always been a fan of deadpan humor and sarcasm because I'm a sarcastic person. But we got films. 5555 says that I thought Norm said racist comments. Well, like I said, the Michael Jackson and OJ stuff, I have my issues with it, but it doesn't surprise me that they will say stuff like that, especially when you're a celebrity, you're out there, they say it's fair game. Of course, some stuff just isn't funny. It's called bombing too. Some people are not going to like every joke you say. Shawn, what do you have to say about that with this film 55? Film says that he thought Norm said some racist comments.
What racist comments did he say? I mean, I don't know anything that he said that was racist. I mean, I've seen a lot of Norm's jokes, and they were just basic humor. I mean, and comedy is what it is. I mean, comedy is going to offend some people here and there, but I have never really heard him say anything that was considered really racist.
No, I had not either, to my knowledge. And if he did, fuck, like I said, fuck him.
Yeah.
But what's interesting, he claims that Don Olemeyer, who was the president of NBC West Coast, reportedly got him fired from Saturday Night Live because he was close friends with OJ. And he said, "You're not funny," and he thought OJ was innocent. Although Olemeyer actually disputes what he said, disputes that. And Norm Macdonald actually confirmed that that didn't happen. So, and Saturday Night Live.
Sounds like they were just against him because he supported OJ and all these white supremacists. They all believed that OJ was a killer, but he was never a killer, and it was based on the evidence that the prosecution presented. It showed that OJ Simpson did not commit these crimes. So everybody still
like Macdonald and all. I remember Norm Macdonald, Bill Maher, and others. Jay Leno making a joke still about him doing it.
Yeah.
Does that bother you, or?
Well, that's what comedians do. I mean, but it did. I mean, some of the OJ jokes did bother me, but the whole thing is that that's the whole sad part of the comedy business is that people make fun of stuff sometimes that's really offensive, and there's not much you can do about it except ignore it.
Yeah. I remember when, I can tell you this, Carlos Mencia, who's a known joke thief, his career has fluttered and bombed when Joe Rogan exposed him for stealing jokes. He even stole jokes from Bill Cosby. I never forget, though, after Katrina, they had actually picked him to be the king of Bacchus here in New Orleans, to be the guest of honor. And he cracked a joke about Hurricane Katrina and said, one thing Hurricane Katrina has taught us is that black people can't swim. And when he made that joke, they immediately removed him from Bacchus, from hosting Bacchus. It's like, no, you can't do that. And you got to realize this is only a year after Katrina, or at least a year and a half afterwards. It was a very sensitive thing to make a joke about that. As a comedian, I get, I'm for First Amendment all the way. But at the flip side of it, too, I know my limits as well. Some things just may not be funny, and your audience is not going to like. I knew if I said that in front of an audience, if I were him, and especially the fact that I'm not from New Orleans, I would likely not have said that. But it is what it is. He did. And I mean, look, there are people that have made jokes about the Holocaust. Some people don't. Some people won't make jokes on that. Some people will. Sometimes it may be funny, sometimes it's not. Comedy is like a magic trick. You go out on stage, you don't know how the audience is going to get it. Because they got some audience members who you just got to know there's some who are conservative. There's some who are stupid. There's some who are extremely smart who came there to laugh. There's some that are religious based. But yeah.
Yep. But
anyway, Norm Macdonald did at 61 years old after a private battle with cancer. Yeah, but I remember him also the movie. Another movie he did. He was also the voice of the dogs. The voice of. Did some voiceover work in some cartoons. He was also in Dr. Dolittle with fellow SNL alum Eddie Murphy. In fact, he tried to get Eddie Murphy to do the Bill Cosby joke back in 2015 for the 40th SNL anniversary. And he did a long Twitter thread about it. And remember, Eddie Murphy refused to do so, right? Shawn?
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't watched SNL that much because it got so political. I just stopped watching it.
Well, I mean, SNL is not even funny.
No. They stopped being funny after Norm and Phil Hartman passed away and Chris Rock left. That was the last great SNL group. I mean, when you think about SNL, it's the Eddie Murphy era, and you think about the Norm Macdonald, Chris Rock, Chris Farley. Those were legendary comedians. I mean, these guys today, all they know is social justice, far left, and it's just not funny. I mean, my Joker Joe Biden segments are funnier than SNL right now.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. Well, even in the 90s when Macdonald was a part of SNL, they actually had their lowest ratings of all time.
Yeah.
That 94, 95 season was horrible. You know, to the point where they were about to get canceled, I think. And
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy, you know, like Eddie Murphy saved it in 1980, in the 1980s. I think Will Ferrell, if I remember correctly, when he came on in the 90s, that's when SNL picked up. They do better when it's a political, during a political season, when people
Yeah.
imitate the president and so forth. Whenever the election was come on, that's when they do their best, get their best ratings. Other than that, they suck.
Yeah, they've been garbage for a while.
Mad TV and In Living Color should still be on there.
Yeah, they were way funnier. They were way funnier.
Right. Like I said, when Artie Lane was with Norm Macdonald doing Dirty Work, that was Artie Lane's. Artie Lane was the original member of Mad TV. But you know, Artie had his drug issues.
Yeah.
And Butterflies, you really old. You remember Dan Aykroyd and Gilda Radner?
Yeah, I remember that group. That was when I was very little. That was like golden. That was the early age of SNL.
I don't even remember Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy was like mid 80s, was like 80, I think 81, 82, something like that, 83. I mean, they were this close to cancellation before Eddie came along and saved them. And then after that, he went to do Beverly Hills Cop and 48 Hours, and then his movie career took off.
Right. He got to host SNL while he was a cast member of Saturday Night Live. You remember that?
Yeah.
That's how popular Eddie was. And, I mean, he was the show.
He was a ratings draw. I mean,
right. When he came and hosted just this last time to promote Dolomite Is My Name.
Yep.
Yeah.
But Eddie Murphy practically turned that show around. I mean, one comedian just turned the entire show around in a couple of months. I mean, they went from the brink of cancellation with lame sketches to Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood, Gumby, Buckwheat. I mean, just so many classic sketches.
I'm just messing with you, Butterflies. I'm sure you're beautiful. I have no doubt you're beautiful on the inside and out. Yeah, Chevy Chase. Yeah, he only lasted one season. Yeah, but like Eddie Murphy saved Saturday Night Live, Michael Jackson saved MTV, and Bill Cosby saved NBC, which brings us to our next topic. Miss Pat attacks Bill Cosby and R. Kelly. Now, those of you who watch Comedy Hype News, Comedy Hype did a sit down with Miss Pat talking about Bill Cosby being let out of jail or prison, and to which Miss Pat, and I'm sure, I don't know if anybody has seen the video. Shawn, you have seen it.
I've seen it.
Yes, and to what everybody has heard, what she basically said is he's free because he got money. Now,
I mean,
I'm only going to play. I don't want to get a copyright strike, risk a copyright strike, but I will play, if I can, at least the audio from the Comedy Hype News and her comments. But I'm trying to be very careful with it. I don't want a copyright strike. Again, this is Fair Use Act of 1976. This is being used for purposes of commentary, news, and education only. I don't own the rights to Comedy Hype News. Let me go ahead and play that for everybody to hear. And I won't play the video, but I'll play the audio so they won't say I showed the video. All right?
I mean, it's crazy.
I mean, it take you know what's as somebody who's been abused and people have taken advantage of me. You look at people like R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, and you say all of these fuckers got away with it so long, and you lock them up now. We supposed to be satisfied when you could have locked them up so many years ago, and you could have saved so many other women from this situation.
What's your message? Is it just like laugh at your pain, and what is your?
I had a lady call me or email me today. She said, "Oh my God, I'm listening to your audio." It shows weakness. There's nothing wrong with crying. It really not. I tried in my life, like sick, hurt, because I've closed the door. I've tried to close the door on some of the most painful things in my life.
Now, what Miss Pat is talking about is how she was sexually assaulted by her mother's boyfriend. So I want to preface this. So she's been a victim herself of sexual assault. But, and while I sympathize with her, I don't believe in, she's taking her personal experience, as you'll hear in the video, and tying it in with everyone else with Cosby. And that's a mistake that I think most people do. You know, they think, well, because it happened to me, it had to happen to him because I'm used to this stuff. It doesn't work that way. But I'm going to play the whole audio in its entirety. I'm going to stop and pause in between that, but I want you to just hear. I'm going to go back a little bit what she's saying. So the clip is about 5 minutes.
Email me today. She said, "Oh my God, I'm listening to your audio book, and I'm in tears." I say, "Why?" It's a story. I know it's touching.
When the last time you cried?
I did a show. I don't cry much. I know you was trying to get out, but you won. When I did Good Morning America, a little segment for them, the Saturday edition. But CBS, Good Day CBS. I'm sorry. I don't cry much. It shows weakness. There's nothing wrong with crying. It really not. I try not to cry. I'm upset when I cry. Or I'm really hurt. Because I've closed the door. I've tried to close the door on some of the most painful things in my life. Like sexual abuse, the baby daddy that abused me, get my mama did. So many other things that happened to me. And I'd rather be happy. I don't want to sit around and cry about what this shot me, this abused me, or whatever. I want to be happy because I'm married. I got a man that treat me like I'm supposed to be treated. I finally got something I worked my whole life for, a second family that loves me. Why do I need to cry? I'm happy.
Yeah, you just mentioned I have to mention this too. So you know, Bill Cosby just got released, and he was a comedian that you looked up to, someone you studied, right?
In the beginning.
And he's accused of doing some things towards women.
Now let me stop right here for a second, because I live in the Comedy Hype News. They have Pierre, they have Capone that come on, I believe. They also have Vanessa Fraction who's on there. Comedy Hype News has over 597 subscribers, and essentially they deal with stories and tall tales of comedy from comedians, their experiences. I find it interesting because I recognize this interviewer's voice. They always ask this question about Cosby to different comedians about something. Cosby just got released. What do you think about this? You know, what did you think about Paul Mooney? They asked Richard Pryor's bodyguard who told that, you know, that story that Paul Mooney molested Richard Pryor's son. Although you go back and look at pictures, Shawn, there are pictures online of Paul Mooney and Richard Pryor still working together, going and attending premieres back as far as the 90s. So what kind of man would work or continue to work with the man that sexually assaulted his son? Is not a real man at all. But that just leads me to question whether these allegations are true or not. But I'm getting off subject, but I want to continue playing this audio, and I want you to dissect and reset what's going on here, Shawn.
I mean, where's your position on Cosby?
I don't know why he's out.
Really? Okay.
I mean, I don't know how he got away with it, but I mean, it's crazy. I mean, somebody who's been abused,
Now watch what she does.
people taking advantage of me. You look at people like R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, and you say, all of these fuckers got away with it so long, and you lock them up now. We're supposed to be satisfied when you could have locked them up so many years ago, and you could have saved so many other women from this situation.
All right, let's stop right there. Now, let's go back to the first thing that Miss Pat said. She said, I can't believe he's out and he got away with it. It's hard to get away with it, sister, if you've been in jail for 3 years. Bill Cosby was in prison for 3 years, right, Shawn?
Yeah, he was in prison for 3 years for a crime he did not commit.
For 3 years. Okay, let's analyze that. You said he got away with it. The prosecutors analyzed, and I guess if you want to talk about other, and here's another problem that we do. We lump all of these women in the same category when if you dissect and read, and that's the key thing, read, because what is the best way to hide something from a black man? Is to do what? It's to put it in a book. Because when we don't read, we miss out on information. That's why they say reading is fundamental. Keyword in fundamental, fun. It's important to read. So all of these women have had their stories debunked, because most, if not all of them, have had their stories debunked because they were caught in lies. Chloe Goins was caught in a lie when she said Bill Cosby raped her. You know, she didn't say rape. She said he molested her by playing with her feet. And when they went to look at it, the district attorney, when she gave a date and time, they were able to find Bill Cosby was in New York at that time. He was not even on the registry at the Playboy Mansion. So that's just one example, and there are countless others. So we cannot link or loop all of these women into one category. But Miss Pat makes that mistake. Okay, we're gonna get it fixed, because I'm gonna say this. You know, I don't know Miss Pat personally. I think, you know, she's come a long way if you look at her story and so forth. But you know, I think that she's ignorant on these remarks, clearly, because she doesn't know the law. It's just like Mark Lamont Hill. People are basing this off of emotion, or Moise Lamont Hill, I should say. They base this off emotion and not law. If you go listen to what Judge Joe Brown said, he broke it down why he was released. And then you linking Weinstein and R. Kelly. You know, I'm going to play some more of it, and I'm going to let Shawn take over. But it's got like 2 minutes and 46 seconds left.
Kind of pisses me off.
More mad at the system.
It's rich. They got money. I mean, sometimes when regular motherfuckers, my kids followed it, they didn't do anything.
Right. So what I think about too, because people say this. Some people think that clearly that Cosby's innocent. Some people really feel like he.
Would that be victim? What you think?
Some people feel that way, and then they dismiss some of the women because those women went back to him after maybe like.
And he paid some of them, and they broke the agreement.
But they kept going back. You're ignoring that. These were not children. All of these women were not children. You say he had his money helped him. If his money helped him, he wouldn't be in jail. He wouldn't have been in prison from the first place. The district attorney, Kevin Steele, wouldn't have to do a Willie Horton style to get Bill Cosby in prison. Vote for me and I'll get Bill Cosby in jail. His money obviously didn't have any effect. Bill Cosby's worth $400 million. What did that mean in the face of white supremacy? Not a goddamn thing. Did it, Shawn?
No, it didn't, because he wound up in prison.
So let's continue the video. And please, Shawn, if you're paying attention, I like for you to dissect everything that you're hearing and everybody in the comment section. And I'll address why they can't, sending cease and desist orders per se, because I see She says she will face lawsuits. There's something in the Constitution called the First Amendment. Of course, the Bill of Rights only apply to you with regards to the government, like the government tried to infringe on your rights. That's when we say Bill of Rights. But everybody is entitled to their opinion. Now, networks that spout false information, like CNN did with Morgan Freeman. Remember when Morgan Freeman, Shawn, was accused?
Yeah.
They tried to accuse him of stuff. Morgan Freeman, the next day, his lawyer was telling CNN cease and desist or face a lawsuit. So they can do stuff like that. I don't know if Comedy Hype can afford something like that. Comedy Hype, hasn't been around. It's been around for a while, but not as long as CNN. I know CNN, Comedy Hype probably has more respectability than CNN.
When you experienced being molested or taken advantage of, did you ever kind of go back? And if so, what made you feel comfortable to do that? Like, as far as being
I was a kid when I was molested, so I didn't go back. I didn't go back. Usually my mom brought those people around us. As far as my kid's father, to be honest with you, it was molestation. There was a big age difference, but in my mind, it was a boyfriend.
Right.
So I went back. To me, I loved him.
Right.
It was a relationship.
Why do you think some of those women did go back to keep mingling with Cosby?
I don't know. You gotta ask them. I don't know. I can't say it to you why those women went back. Maybe at the time they didn't feel like they was in a situation that they realized they was in. I don't fucking know. Was it alcohol? Was it drugs? I don't know. I mean, if you said you abused me, I don't think I would have went back. Honestly, I don't think I would have went back.
Right.
And it could be because you know how people. This shit ain't changed much. People want to hang around famous people. I don't know what groupies do. I never been one.
Oh,
right.
So you don't know
that's
what's
a key word. You heard that? She said groupies. Did y'all hear it?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What is a groupie, Shawn?
A groupie is somebody who tries to offer themselves sexually to male celebrities in the hopes of getting their favor or attention.
Well, let's go to Google. Let's go to Google right fast. I got the dictionary right up. I got the word right here. Groupie. And for those that don't know how to pronounce it, I'm going to play it.
Groupie.
There you go.
Groupie.
So a person, especially a young woman, who regularly follows a pop music group or other celebrity in the hope of meeting or getting to know them. An enthusiastic or uncritical follower is often derogatory. So these are just the groupies of rock and roll stars in the 60s. So when we talk about these women that slept with Cosby, like Shawn, like Andrea, she didn't sleep with him, but these women were most likely what, class? Groupies. Andrea Constant was a
groupie.
Sean Brown was a
groupie.
Beverly Johnson,
groupie.
Janice Dickinson,
groupie.
Need I say more? Shawn?
Yep. Well, I'm going to get ready to go in on this Ms. Pat right now.
Wait, hold on. Let me finish the video. Hold.
All right.
It's got like a few seconds left. I'm sorry. So yeah, let me just finish it. And then please, you can go in. It's got like 30 seconds. So.
Going on in a young girl head. Then she get a little older, like, oh my God, I've been violated. Oh my God, I got rights. I don't know.
You said that you think people will still go see Cosby.
Yeah, I think people still go see Cosby.
Why do you think people would even do that?
Because some people believe he's innocent. He still got fans. Some people think OJ is innocent. Some people still listen to R. Kelly music. You just got people who like what they like and do what they do. Yeah. And you can't stop them.
Shawn, you may proceed.
All right. Well, your Ms. Pat sits here and talks about how people are used to take advantage of her in the past, but she ironically cannot see how she's being taken advantage of now by these white supremacists. Now, these white supremacists have trotted out your Ms. Pat to be the latest face to go out here and speak derogatory regarding Mr. Cosby. And this is done by design because they know they can't attack Mr. Cosby directly. So they go out here and they find a black bootlick to go out here and speak on their behalf and make their statements by proxy. So they're using your Ms. Pat to go out here and attack Bill Cosby and say the things that many of these racists want to say and continue to push the narratives about Bill Cosby in the media that they want to push. They know that they cannot push them anymore on these mainstream platforms because Mr. Cosby's conviction was completely overturned in the courts. So they cannot go out here and have these mainstream media outlets say these things because they would be considered slander and libel, and Mr. Cosby could sue them directly. So they go out here and they find themselves a nice mammy to go out here and say the things that they want said about Mr. Cosby. Now, your Miss Pat, again, is thinking that she's going out here and attacking Mr. Cosby because he's representing many of the things she experienced as related to her trauma. But what they're doing is manipulating her and using her to project her feelings about these bad men in her life, like the men who molested her and the bad boyfriends and husbands. So she's transferring her anger at those men on Mr. Cosby as related to this crime that did not happen. And really, she's really thinking that by attacking Mr. Cosby, she's attacking those men, again, trying to go after black men by proxy. So she's out here doing the dirty work of these white supremacists, going out here attacking Mr. Cosby. And as she attacks Mr. Cosby, these white supremacists get another puppet to go out here and say the things that they want said. Now, when I take a further critical examination of your Ms. Pat, she's looking a lot like your Hannibal Buress back in the 2000s when he made his statements against Bill Cosby. And instead of it being NBC using their corporate shill to make their statements, what they're doing is you have your Viacom bringing out their corporate shill to go out here and make their derogatory statements about Bill Cosby. But because it seems like when it comes down to advancing in Hollywood, and if you're black, you can only go it by two ways. You can either go by putting on a dress, or you go out here and take a shot at one of our elders, Mr. Bill Cosby. That's the only way it seems like you get a push in modern day Hollywood. And that's why I see your modern day Hollywood as the media arm of white supremacy, because it's not about elevating black people, because your Ms. Pat presents some of the most degrading images and narratives regarding black people. And it's clear to me she's cut from the exact same cloth that your Alice Walker and your Oprah Winfrey were cut from, a misandristic woman who has a deep-seated hatred of heterosexual black men. And that is one of the reasons why they have given her a platform on Viacom, because she's pushing the narratives that white supremacists in Hollywood want to see regarding black people. What they want to see are these Ms. Pats who go out here and present the most derogatory images of black men and push the most derogatory narratives regarding black men. Not to mention, she also fits many of the stereotypes, such as the sapphire, a loud, emasculating black woman, and she's also looking more and more like a mammy, looking to take care of white supremacy's dirty work. And that's what she's doing right here, trying to continue to further bootlick and brown nose your white supremacists by going out here and further pushing their agenda for them, hoping to get some butter biscuits off the table. But what's coming to Ms. Pat is the same thing that came to Hannibal Buress. Eventually, she's going to wind up getting her N-word moment, because once your white supremacists get their fill of Ms. Pat, they're going to send her to obscurity, just like they did Hannibal Buress. And that's the final fate of being a bootlick as related to the media arm of white supremacy. Once you finish saying what they want said, they send you to obscurity and oblivion. So your Ms. Pat is thinking that she's moving further up with the white supremacists, but she doesn't know that she's in for a big fall, because if it wasn't for men like Bill Cosby, she wouldn't be anywhere right now, and her Chitlin Circuit comedy would still be on the Chitlin Circuit.
Oh, God. Between you and Harvey, Harvey said she works the Chitlin Circuit. I ain't never heard of Yeah, well, I mean, I've seen her. I've never seen her until that BET clip that went viral where she was cursing her son. That's where I saw her from. And
But that's what they dig these people up like Hannibal Buress. They create these shills and these fakers, and they push them. That's what Hollywood does. They'll bring a guy like a Hannibal Buress or a Ms. Pat out, because these are people who they are going to go out here and push their narratives, push their agenda, and that's the type of people they want on their platforms, because these kind of people are saying what they want to say, and they can use them to attack other black people by proxy. So what they do is you go out here, find themselves a yes man who looks the part that they feel comfortable with, because Ms. Pat is a big, fat, obese black woman with a hair weave. And that's what your white racists want to see representing black womanhood. So they'll go out here, trot her out here, have her parrot what they want said, and have her do what they want done. And as she's out here pushing their narratives and acting the way they feel comfortable, they feel secure about going after black people like our elders, like Bill Cosby, using these shills. And this is one of the things we have to push back on in new black media, because these kind of people, they're there to push agendas and push narratives that are anti-black and use a black face to do it.
Well, let me say this, and
Groupie.
There we go. Well, let me say this. It's not just her, because I heard, in fairness, I heard Michael Jai White's, and I didn't watch the video with Vlad. I refused to watch anything with Vlad. Michael Jai White said the same thing, where he said Cosby bought his way out of prison. All these people have to do is look at Judge Joe Brown's interview with Maurice Lamont Hill, or I should say it was an ambush, an attempted ambush on the judge. But he broke it down. Look at my interviews with Tom Mesereau.
Yeah,
we are both Tom and I are licensed attorneys. The judge is a man who's practiced law for over 50 years. 15 of those years, he was a judge, a criminal court judge.
And according to the law, you're supposed to have representation. Now, you have a right to go out here and hire the best representation you can. And I thought that's what we were supposed to be under the United States Constitution.
Right.
Under the United States
He had
Constitution.
the best lawyer. He had Tom Mesereau, arguably outside of the guy that represented Casey Anthony, Boaz. Between him and Tom Mesereau, Tom is arguably one of the greatest criminal defense lawyers we've produced. Outstanding attorney. And he even said to be a part of that trial, that was the most salacious, biased trial I've ever been a part of in my 40-year career as an attorney, Gavin. He told me this.
And it was an extremely salacious trial. I mean, there were no facts. There was no evidence. I mean, the Cosby trial was a straight railroad.
A straight railroad. And the information is public. That's why if you do research and took the time to read, ladies and gentlemen, you'd understand all of that. And that is why I'm coming out with my book, which I'm still, we're still working on it. It should be released. I want to say it's coming this fall. I've put the finishing touches on it as we speak. When you're working on nonfiction, you got to have your references in order. It's more a pain in the butt trying to get my footnotes in order and lined up, because that's tedious. But I got to do it so that it's organized and nobody can say I made stuff up. But because everything is public information, that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of why we have a court system. It's open to the public. It's not closed. Certain proceedings may be closed off, but it's open to the public to see. And the court records are there. Even with R. Kelly, and I'm not saying R. Kelly is a good guy, but I've noticed how the media has ignored some things with R. Kelly with regards to the accusers. Like earlier today, shout out to that brother. This brother, I shouted him out before, brother Dennis Byron. He reported something that I didn't hear in the national media discussed. He said the last witness for R. Kelly today was a Homeland Security agent who testified her had R. Kelly under surveillance, and that he seized content from his storage unit, which included videos of alleged victims. One of the most frustrating parts of covering this trial is the constant interruptions by Judge Donnelly with these sidebars. Please let the lawyers make their own objections. The backup dancer who claimed to have witnessed R. Kelly perform oral sex on singer Aaliyah was caught in a lie by defense, since labor laws at the time made it illegal because of her age. She could provide no proof her statement was true. He also says here, these are similar words that other witnesses have used while being examined by federal prosecutors. A very strategic move by defense to suggest that to the jury that the witness testimony might be reversed. So what she's saying and what they're saying here, but this man is covering this case well. He's saying that the man who accused R. Kelly of sexually assaulting him has also admitted being caught stealing $8,000 from the singer's backup under cross-examination. Now, that's not to say R. Kelly didn't do what he's accused of, per se, but this is what we do in court, Shawn. You question the credibility of a witness. You have a right to confront any witness that's testifying against you.
That's called cross-examination.
Correct. They can't even let Aaliyah rest in peace. Aaliyah's own parents didn't want to be a part of this. Why didn't they? I got a very important question for Aaliyah's father. If you knew R. Kelly married your daughter, this is public information. He did do this. Why didn't he jump on his ass?
Yeah, you would think. And back then, he could have easily prosecuted him for statutory rape if that was the case.
Well, they wouldn't. Listen, if that was my daughter, R. Kelly wouldn't be prosecuted. I would be prosecuted for murder.
Yep.
Because he would be dead. Let's be real. He would be dead if someone did that to your child. I can't. I'm not encouraging violence. I got to be careful with my words. But you would think a dad would have jumped on it. But what does that say? It's these people, Shawn, and I'm just talking in general. What goes on with families and what goes on in Hollywood. And you notice, Shawn, the casting couch applies to children just as well as it does women and men.
It definitely does, because people are so obsessed with fame, they're willing to even pimp out their own children to get it. And that's what happened in the case with R. Kelly. A lot of people were willing to pimp out their own kids just to get in with this celebrity. And that's really what was truly disturbing. They were willing to pimp out their own children. I mean, I've seen it here in the Bronx with drug dealers. I mean, mothers practically sending their daughters to get involved with these kind of guys. I mean, it's just disgusting and absolutely disturbing, but it is just shows how twisted some people are.
That's the cover for the book, ladies and gentlemen. I showed it before last week, and I can't wait to release it to you all real soon. But I encourage people to read, when you get the book, to read it.
Yeah, I definitely want to read this one, because this case, I mean, this was one of the worst travesties of justice that was ever done in this country. I mean, it ranks up there with Plessy versus Ferguson, Dred Scott, and the railroading of the injustice Emmett Till received.
Southborough Boys,
Yeah.
the George Steinme Jr. Really, and it wasn't just black people. Well, I mean, of course, primarily black people were targeted, but when you have trial by media, there were white entertainers who were targeted as well. Fatty Arbuckle, a comedian back in the 1920s, a silent comedian that had a similar, he would be a Me Too candidate today in today's standards, and likely he would have been convicted, but back then, even after 3 trials, he was acquitted. The jury, and you'll read about it because I talk about him in there, but he got railroaded so badly in that trial. He lost his family, he lost his wife, he lost his career. When he was finally vindicated, he was starting to make a comeback, but before he could do that, he dropped dead of a heart attack. So all of that wore out on him. The stress of the trial, what he went through, and how the media put him through that. So you will see and read things like that. But Computer Robots had a question. I got a question. Why would mothers like this do this to their own daughters, like pimp out their daughters for drug dealer boyfriends, and fathers pimp out their sons to older, attractive women? Simple: money.
Yeah. Seen it when I was in high
Love
school.
of money. For the love of money is the root of all evil. And Shawn, let me say this: when I was in high school, I knew the girls. I mean, at St. Aug, we didn't have. We were all boys school, but we knew all of the girls that messed with. We knew girls that messed with older men.
Yeah.
And it's not saying it's right, but those girls would pursue older men.
Yep.
And get pregnant by them, have children, and some of the parents they were okay with it. And I think part of it, they may have had single mothers in the house. The dad wasn't there. But that happens. It happened. The girl that's the freshman in high school, she's dating a senior. Or she's dating somebody that doesn't go to that high school, somebody Negro that dropped out.
Yep. I mean, they be dating all kind of guys. We dating 30-year-old men. I've seen it. Girls, 25, 26-year-old guys. I mean, when these neighborhood drug dealers, they would just run to them because they could get their Jordan sneakers, their shearling coats, leather jackets. And they'd be sitting in the lunchroom bragging about these guys and acting like it's perfectly fine. And their mothers, with some of them, would go along with it and even encourage them because they want to live large and be what they call ghetto fabulous and have that type of lifestyle. So it just goes on. But the whole thing is people want to sit there and just make it like, oh, this happened. It's like, no, this has been happening for years. And sadly, it happens because a lot of times you have parents who encourage it and encourage their daughters to participate in this kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think we got a few results in right now.
Like Democrats who don't want to admit or be responsible for putting a Republican in office. How do you maneuver around that in determining how people are leaning?
Most people are, in fact, honest, and most people will tell you what they did. And, in today's very partisan environment, yes, we're going to see a very strong connection between Democrats and voting no, between Republicans and voting yes. But you can also do things, as we do in our decision desk models, looking at the past votes of every county, of every precinct, looking at the demographics and comparing them. And one of the ways that we do that, if I bring up, let's say, the 2020 election right here, and I look at the blue and the red areas, the blue areas, very Democratic, the red areas, more Republican, we're going to start to see those trends too. And if those two trends look like they compare very favorably, no in places that voted for Joe Biden, red places that voted for Donald Trump, maybe more yes, that's when you start to see the trend overall and which way the state might be going tonight, guys.
Yeah. Anthony, one last question about the 2016 race, because that changed a lot. How did that change your job in terms of determining how things were ebbing and flowing? Because obviously everybody was surprised by the results.
We talked for a while before that election day that it was going to take a while to count the ballots. There was the pandemic, there was a lot of mail balloting, and sure enough, it did. One of the challenges in that was waiting for all those results to come in as those patterns emerged and ultimately Joe Biden then prevailing. But one of the things I'm looking for tonight is we know that California doesn't count all of its ballots tonight. It may leave, say, a third still to be counted because they could be late arriving, haven't been processed yet. So I don't expect the full count tonight, but we do expect most of them to be coming in, maybe starting within the hour in large numbers. And that's going to give us a sense. And for me here at the decision desk, that's where I start looking for those patterns, looking for those correlations of what's in and what's out between the Democrats and the Republicans and seeing where that goes, guys.
All right. Well, we will be checking back with you throughout the night.
All right, not yet. It's still too early to tell, ladies and gentlemen. Did the now deceased Norm Macdonald throw shades at Bill Cosby? He probably did. Like I said, I never really paid attention, Tyree, to Norm Macdonald, like talking about it afterwards. I'm sure he did. I've heard Joe Rogan, I believe, throw stuff at him. Bill Maher. He was slim pickings. Everybody was just, when you are targeted, everybody just starts throwing apples at you. Everybody's throwing darts at you when you got the bullseye on you. So it wouldn't surprise me if he did. Kevin Williams said, at the public and private high schools in the urban Detroit metropolitan area in the late 90s and early 2000s, there were always dudes there 35, 40 years up to pick up young girls, and everyone knew it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know, back even during the turn of the century, Sean's, they arranged marriages here in the United States for teenage girls who were no older than 14 marrying 30, 40-year-old men. Look at The Color Purple.
Yeah.
That stuff went on. The older, no, it's not, now it was apropos back then, but now it's something you would not do. Because you get locked up and you get a sexual predator charge on you for the rest of your life. Even if you get out of jail, you got to register for that as a sex offender for the rest of your life. Your life is over with at that point.
Yeah, you're finished at that point. Your whole life is done, and that's what happens when you get involved with these younger women. But a lot of these guys do it anyway because the women just throw themselves at them when they see that big money. They just want to go get them.
Yeah,
very aggressive.
Yeah. Last thing I want to talk about before we get out of here. I did a show, my show Sunday, Shawn, when I talked about your Russell Westbrook and his dress, of course. Lil Nas X, something that happened. He came out to the VMAs looking like Randy Watson became a tranny, if you look at that. And this happened too. This VMA on the red carpet. This sister, Jamila Mustafa, she said the best thing of the night, the best moment. I didn't even watch the VMAs, but I thought this was funny.
I'm happy. I look good. I look good.
Listen, I'm not going to say I'm hating on the fit, but let's move on, okay? Now, in 2019...
And they tweeted like, oh my God, why would she say that? I've never seen an interviewer like give their honest opinion. But then so he came out there like that. And of course they had him do his songs and so forth. And you see that he's being supported. He won an MTV award for Video of a Year and so forth, if I'm not mistaken. These award shows, I've told you before, they've become political, too political at this point. And we also had Russell Westbrook. I talked about him, but Russell came out wearing a skirt. I wanted to know, and Russell is married. Now, I've never known any or heard anything about him being gay. His wife has defended him. I showed pictures of him. He has a beautiful family. But what the hell is going on in this country? What's going on, man?
Well, what's going on here is we have another black man willing to allow himself to be buck broken in order to advance himself in white society. That's what's happening with Westbrook right here, is that he wants to move forward. He wants to get a push in the mainstream media. And in order for him to get that push in the mainstream media, he has to go out here and make himself appealing to those white executives at the top. So what he's doing right now by putting on this skirt is saying, I'll go out here and be your booty man, and I will allow you to degrade me in any way, shape, or form, because this is a ritual I'm seeing as related to black men. And the only guys doing this are heterosexual black men. I mean, you don't see any Asian men, Indian men, Arab men, or white men putting on skirts and dresses and heels. No, you only see heterosexual black men participating in this extremely bizarre and dysfunctional behavior. And we've been seeing this for the last, I say, 30 to 40 years as related to black men in Hollywood. And I'm noticing again a pattern. Every one of these black men who acts like this soon gets a push in Hollywood, and that push is to make him a star in their institutions. And again, it's really disturbing to see this whole pattern, because it's all about degrading the black male image and saying that you will be their B word and you will be under them. So that's the message that they're sending. In order to have success in our institutions, you have to put on a dress, you have to be feminine, you have to strip yourself of your manhood, your masculinity, and your sexual identity in order to be accepted into white society. And again, disturbing to watch, because here's a man, heterosexual, married, has a family, and he's willing to compromise his dignity all to move forward after this. And after this, he's going to lose his wife and his family, because his wife is no longer going to respect him for allowing himself to be turned into a booty man and making himself, again, embarrassing himself. This is him losing face in front of his family, stripping himself of his manhood. But it shows that there is a disturbing pattern as related to Hollywood and heterosexual black men, and an extreme insecurity from these heterosexual, as related to the image of heterosexual black men, heterosexual black manhood, and heterosexual black masculinity. Hollywood is scared of these things, and it's so terrified that they always have to go out here and buck break a black man, because that's the only way they feel secure in the presence of black manhood.
And that's his family. Beautiful family.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Beautiful wife, adorable children. You know, I see his son right there. What's his son going to say in 10, 12 years from now when he sees that? And his friends are making fun. Oh, your daddy was in a skirt. I mean, Russell, and you know, my thing though too, Shawn, when you mentioned something, I disagree with this part, where he's trying to get pushed more into the mainstream. Russell Westbrook is already in the mainstream because he's an athlete and he's one of the, I guess, top 5 ball players right now. Everybody, you know, he's been around for a while. He's gotten older. Top 5, top 10.
Yeah, he's top 5, but we're talking about moving forward in the entertainment industry. I mean, in the NBA, he's top 5, but he wants to go to Hollywood. And so these guys, they want to go to Hollywood and further advance themselves so they can continue to make more money. So that's where they participate in this disturbing ritual.
Yeah, but I mean, the dude. But my point is that are you really doing it to make more money because you're a multi millionaire? And is it something he just likes to do? I mean, is something he likes? I, I mean, man, I just don't understand. Like, I think because it's not like he's not broke. I don't think he's broke. I don't think Dwayne Wade is broke.
Well, Dwayne Wade is he's a beta male.
And Dwayne Wade is, thought was an alpha male. Saying, I've been disappointed in Dwayne Wade. I've fallen off with Dwayne Wade. Yeah, he did go to LA to the Lakers. So yeah, that's Hollywood capital. That's Hollywood there. That's true. But I know he's not that would really suck though, Shawn, if he's doing it for desperation because he actually has money.
Well, the whole thing is when you're dealing with black men, they'll do anything for white validation and they'll do anything for white approval. So it's disturbing. You don't know how far black men will compromise. Some of them will to get white approval and white attention.
Well, you know what? You're absolutely right. I have seen some who go as far to get validation. They will throw their own under the bus. Look at Larry Elder. Look at they got a guy out here, a politician out here in Lafayette who's I've heard a lot of stuff about him. This guy, I don't know if I should hold on. This politician, I don't want to get the name wrong, but there's a dude who's a known sellout. I think his name's Albert Guillory, yeah, out of Opelousas. This dude here, he did I've heard a lot of stuff about him. But yeah, but a lot of black men, they call themselves black only in name, but they're white on the inside. That's what we call them Oreos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is to go to the black comic book group or black sci-fi group, and you'll see a lot of these black bootlegs. I mean, these people, they practically will sacrifice their very dignity and betray things that they believe, but that black people are supposed to believe in, just to get white approval. I mean, people could just sit there and say the most racist things, and these people make excuses for them, give them passes, and you don't. I mean, when it comes down to black folks and white validation, I mean, I have seen myself people again making all sorts of compromises, making excuses, and supporting people who basically are completely against us, all because they want to get white attention and white approval.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, man. Well, I'm still waiting. We're still waiting for election results. It's going to be a while before it kicks
Get in all of the official results, but we are here with you.
Because it's not, it's going to take a while before they get everything. Probably by, I'd say it's 10 o'clock my time. It's 11:30. Well, 10:30 my time, Shawn. It's 11:30 your time. They probably won't have anything for another couple hours because California is Pacific time and it's moving slow.
Yeah, well, we won't know until about 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon at the most, or maybe even a couple of days from now.
Yeah. If you like this channel, ladies and gentlemen, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. I want you to please support our brother Shawn James on his platform, Shawn James, which is his YouTube channel. Buy his books, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess and John Haynes Taking Care of Business. Also, check out John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose. Shawn does a live. Huh?
John Haynes Taking Care of Business as well.
Yeah, John Haynes Taking Care of Business and The Man with Nothing to Lose. Also get The Man Crisis, one of his best books I think he's written. The man crisis is very telling, especially in these times, because he looks like Russell Westbrook is a man in crisis. It looks like Sean, as well as some of these other celebrities. Like, well, it's beyond crisis. It's a catastrophe for Lil Nas X. But,
he's done. He's finished.
Yeah, but some of these other men, even the Currys. Steph Curry's dad. Yeah.
Yep.
PJ Washington. I mean, did you hear what Brittany Renner said when she said it's stepdaddy season?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, she was talking about that with regards to, getting pregnant by this basketball player. She's hopped on to the next penis, and she's saying it's stepdaddy season. Any man that messes with her, you a sucker. And she told you what she's about.
Yep.
All right. The Southeast Dusty said the magical 4 a.m. switch. I agree with John, is that when it comes to black CBFs, for an example, you would see like how they would bootlick for their white counterparts, honestly. I observed, but not surprised. Black CBFs, what does CBF stand for?
Comic book fans.
Comic book fans? Okay. Yeah, I know Computer Robots is into all of that. Yeah. I'm into video games as well myself, wrestling. Or tomorrow's AEW, so I'm going to check that out. Yeah. AEW has been getting better, man. Sean, you heard me?
Yeah, AEW is at the top of its game so far. So
I think
that latest pay-per-view showed that they were a serious competitor.
They're gonna run WWE out of business because WWE. I think they don't have the wrestlers that have the personalities like they did back in the 80s and 90s. And Vince even said that AEW wasn't a big competitor like WCW, but that is changing.
Yeah.
They got money. Like the Khan family are just as, if not even more wealthier than what Ted Turner was.
Yep. And they can hire the top talent to. Then the thing is, they let their talent do what they need to do. They don't interfere in their talent like WWE does.
Yeah. Most definitely. No, it's not. The Attitude Era was really the last WWE peak at that point because there was nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
Ruthless Aggression was fine, but afterwards it was just like you're rehashing the same things. Then they had to switch to the G era because of the Benoit murder.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, that has been it for me and this channel. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button, and please donate to the Cash App. You see it at the bottom. You see it, the link at the bottom. If you want to support me to continue seeing more shows, I will not do a show Thursday. I'll be out of town, but I'll probably have a video that'll drop that Thursday, so if we don't miss the schedule. So just keep in mind. Sean, thank you once again. I appreciate it, brother.
All right, thank you for having me on.
Yes, if you like to advertise, just hit me up at gavin.grich1@gmail.com for rates. Also, thank you to my subscribers. I really appreciate that we've reached 1,000. We're trying to push for 5,000. Eventually, we want 100,000. So I need you all to share this video. If you like it, throw the likes up. If you'd like to, please check out my seasoning company, NawniesCreoleBlends.com. NawniesCreoleBlends.com. Try it on chicken, meat, or fish. Nawnies goes great with every dish. Try it out. It's good stuff. You can subscribe to the Patreon as well. And also, check out my latest song, Video Soul, that's available on iTunes, Apple, and Spotify, and other streaming platforms. And, of course, since we've gotten on down, it is now time to get on up, and you can get on up on iTunes, Spotify, and Apple, ladies and gentlemen. All right, I'm getting out of here. Thank you to everyone from Southeast Dusty to Pacing Tea Butterflies. I appreciate you, old girl. Derek Bailey, Tyree, Frank Nitty, Black Voltron, who's always bringing that fire. Trev, a host of people. If I don't name all of you, ladies and gentlemen, Jennifer Wade is my head, not my heart. So I thank you. God bless. Be safe, everyone. I'll holla. Peace. Now it's time to get on up. Good night, Shawn.
Good night.
Thank you all.
Girl, come on. Gotta dance to the beat, because on the dance floor is where we'll be. Show me what you got. Gotta feel the groove.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on.
Right now the party's wasted. There's nothing much to do. But once the groove gets started, tell me, what do you have to lose? Just look into my eyes, girl, as we glide across the room. And what's my surprise now? The beat takes hold of you. Now if you feel it like I'm feeling, baby, let's go deal. Time to get to this party started. Ain't no time to blow it. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really moving. Time to feel your body moving. And move your body. Cause the beat is really moving. Time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on and shake something.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on.
Tell the DJ play with his style. Rock steady in the mood. Hold on, fire. Jump back with the groove. Show me how you do it for the chorus. Hit the bus stop, or do the money house, baby. It's really up to you. Now if you feel it like I'm feeling, oh baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the road to run it. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really grooving. Time to feel your body moving. Gotta get on and move your body. Cause the beat is really grooving. Start to feel your body moving. Gotta get on and shake something.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on.
Now 2020 hasn't been the best year of all times. We've been dealing with death, the pandemic, racism, bad policing, and all the bad rhymes. But like Uncle Snoop once said, if you breathe and you're achieving. So if you're ready, I need you all to get on up. Are you ready? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Get your butt on the dance floor. 5 and 6 and 7, 8. This jam we appreciate. We're gonna slide and step on the beat. On the dance floor is where we'll be.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up
and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, start to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something.
Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on.
Yeah, gotta get on. Baby, gotta get on. Baby,
feel the groove, get on the floor.